We're on page 7 and we've been discussing the importance of studying Torah. We mentioned it's important to study Torah in groups. It's important to study the proper books when you need to study them. We mentioned studying Kabbalah. Now we're saying it's this end of it's the second paragraph on the page in the bold letters. Me, somebody she'eino yodea, who does not know lilmod, to study. What if you have a person who really doesn't know how to study Torah? Let's give you an example. They don't know how to read any language. They don't know how to read. Are they now exempt from the obligation of studying Torah?
They gotta go somewhere to listen.
Oh. So halakha vav. Af mi she'eino mevin, even someone who does not understand b'divrei Torah, the words of Torah, klal, at all. I mean, they have no understanding of Torah. Yelech levet hakneset, he should go to the synagogue, or levet midrash, to the house of study, the yeshiva, bish'a she'hatzibur kovim itim laTorah, while the community is studying Torah. So a person should come, they know Kollel is at 8:30, at 10 o'clock, they should say, so that's when I'm coming to sit here to listen. V'yeh lo schar halicha, and he'll receive reward just for walking to this synagogue, just for driving there. Because there's a reward for going to the holy places. So that reward he'll get. It seems from here that there's even an idea of the person doesn't really understand. But just being in a place where other people are studying Torah, that's an important thing. Sometimes in Yerushalayim you would see there are people walking the streets and they're too tired to learn, they're too tired to pray, so they walk into yeshiva, they pull up a chair and they just sit down like this for a while. Just to be in a room where people are studying Torah.
And that's what I do.
Ah, see, very good.
Yeah, I'm just like,
very good.
My mom attends a synagogue and I have to go. I'm just gonna go and sit there. I just sit there sometimes.
So who did this? Rabbi Nachman of Breslov's mother. If you'll notice, Rabbi Nachman of Breslov always asked that you pray about him using his mother's name, never his father's name. How come he didn't like his dad? He said he was only holy because of his mother. His mother, when he was a little boy, used to bring him every day as a baby to the grave of the Baal Shem Tov, her grandfather, where she would pray all the time. He said that holiness that he had just from being in a holy place. And then she would take him to the Beit Midrash and she would roll the baby carriage into the synagogue where the people were studying and just leave him there. So that even as a baby, when he was in this crib sleeping, he was listening to people studying Torah. He said all of his holiness came from his mother, and therefore we should call him Rabbeinu Nachman ben Fagin. Rabbi Nachman, the son of Fagin. Even just absorbing. Now, is that the same level of studying Torah on your own? It's not. But if that's what you can do, that's an important thing to do. And if a person only knows how to study a little bit, he should set for himself a place, and he should study what he knows how to study. I was once in such a situation. I went to take my oral acceptance examination to yeshiva in Baltimore. So my parents sent me in 12th grade. I flew there for the weekend. And you stay there from Thursday till Sunday, something like that. They watch you, you take a test on Sunday morning, and they observe you the whole Shabbat. And the test is on whatever pages of Talmud you studied that year in school. They test you. They give you an oral test. They ask you all kinds of questions. Normally they make sure you get them wrong. And then they tell you either you pass, you fail, they want you, they don't want you.
They make sure you get it wrong.
There's some famous yeshivot where they would give you these oral tests, not in this generation. They would give you this oral test, they would ask you questions. And you would give answers. And depending on the commentary that your answers came out like, let's say it was like Rashi, or it came out like the Maharsha, or they would accept you or decline you. They want people in this yeshiva who think like Rashi. They want people in this yeshiva who think like, put in a commentary. There were such places. So I was there, and then what happened was that how much Gemara did I learn in San Diego? I had like 3 pages in English with like 4 Rashis. And I came to the test. Other kids read 27 pages of Gemara. I had 3 pages in English. It was embarrassing. They still took me, so that was good. But now I finished my 3 pages. I'm spending the whole week on my 3 pages. I'm ready to go home after the test. Baltimore got its biggest snowstorm in 20 years. I was snowed in for another week with 3 pairs of clothing for 3 days. I was there for 3 days, right? So, alone, away from my parents. I was just stuck in the because you couldn't even leave the yeshiva buildings. You're just stuck.
It was that bad, huh? Yeah, wow.
The snow, I remember. I'm from San Diego.
The
I
roads
saw
are
snow like in
closed.
Laguna Mountain, but snow is real snow over here. You open the door and the snow is. You have to get out somehow. They shoveled snow and they put it on the sides of the road. It felt like when the Jews were leaving Egypt to the sea. They were what did it say? Mayim lehem chomam. The water was like a mountain to the right and to the left. The snow was taller than us. So when they pile it up, on each side is taller than you. I was stuck in yeshiva, but now I only know 3 pages of Gemara. I spent the first 3 days studying 3 pages of Gemara. How much can you study the same 3 pages? So you figure out you play sports or you go to other... No, everyone, because it's snowed in, there's no secular study classes because the secular studies teachers don't live on campus. They can't drive. It was illegal to drive for the whole week. Because Baltimore's snow plows were snowed in.
Oh, wow.
And, yeah, it was a pretty bad situation. It was illegal. They would give tickets to people who were driving on the streets. And so you're stuck. So now there's nothing else to do in the yeshiva. The basketball court, it's under snow. Everything is closed. Just the Ben Midrash is open. So now you have from 7 o'clock in the morning till 9:30 at night, everybody's just sitting and studying Torah. And I know 3 pages of Torah. And so I'm stuck in that. How much can I review? So I don't know what else to do. I open up a Gemara, but I don't know how to learn Gemara on my own. I'm an 8th grade kid, from San Diego. I don't have somebody to study with me because everyone's studying with their study partners. So what do? 2 things I knew. I know Hebrew. So any book that was in Hebrew became my friend. The Mishnah, the Shulchan Aruch, the Mishnah Bura. What else? The Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. There's a book there called the Pachad Yitzchak from Rav Hutner. I didn't understand a word in that book. It's a very deep book, but it was in Hebrew. And I just sat and I switched in between these books that nobody else in the yeshiva studies. And that's what I studied. So I was sitting in a room. Everybody else was studying a very advanced level, and I'm busy reading the Chumash with Rashi Chumash, and I didn't know how to read Rashi script. So whatever Rashi script I could make out, I was making out. And I felt exactly like this person in this situation. I know how to learn a little bit. And you study. You study whatever you know how to study. Even if it's the same thing every single day, that's what you're going to study. What's the big deal? At least you're studying Torah. ועצם השהייה בבית הכנסת, בשעה שהציבור... ועצם השהייה, just dwelling בבית הכנסת, in the synagogue, just sitting there, בשעה שהציבור לומדים תורה, in the time when the ציבור is studying Torah, the community is studying Torah, ושומע דברי תורה, and you're listening to words of Torah, אפילו אינו מבין מה שאומרים, even if you don't understand a word that they're saying, you speak only Chinese, and you're sitting in the Beit Midrash, and you're listening to Torah in Hebrew, you're getting a mitzvah just from sitting there. Yesh b'ma'ala, there's a level, there's such a level as just listening to words of Torah, even if you don't understand it. Umi, and somebody שאינו יודע ללמוד תורה בעצמו, does not know how to study Torah on his own. יסייע, he should help, ויחזיק, and he should support, בידי לומדי תורה, the people who study Torah. You should find Torah scholars who study Torah and say, I want to support you in studying Torah. ויקבל שכר מאת השם, כי זכר וזבולון. And he receives a reward from Hashem, like the partnership between the brothers, Yisachar and Zvulun. One was a businessman, one studied Torah, and he would learn for him, and he would work for him. And that was, he split his finances with him, and he split his Torah study with him. This is halakha. Shulchan Aruch says you could do such a thing. If you know how to learn on your own, so that's weird. But if you need someone else to learn for you, you can support someone to learn for you. There is a person who supports people who study Torah. Our generation has had a huge boom in the amount of people who sit and study Torah. And this caused some people, because there are those who claim to study Torah and they don't actually, it has caused some people to have negative feelings about supporting those who study Torah. But those are incorrect feelings. So because a few people do something bad, so you're gonna take away from the whole purpose of Am Yisrael. We have people who study Torah. Those are the crowns of Am Yisrael. You say it in Kaddish, you say it in Tefillah. Everywhere you go, the rabbis and the rabbis about the rabbis. What would we do without our leaders? We have an obligation. Normally I shouldn't be speaking this halakha, but we have an obligation to support them. It's a very strange thing. I spent this in my class in the morning. It's a strange thing that American Jewry, I'm blaming them because that's easy. American Jewry can be in a situation where you have very affluent Jews who are members of synagogues whose rabbis live in poverty. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And yet it's demanded to dress a certain way and to live in a certain neighborhood. And God forbid, I once had a person say they don't like the car that I drive. Not here, none of this. Are you offering to buy me a car? No. So what are you getting involved? So this is, but there are such people in the world. How can we sleep at night knowing there are people who study Torah to serve Am Yisrael, to serve the Jewish people, and they're not doing well? You could argue so that everybody has to study Torah. Listen, I would also love to study Torah, but I'm not. You have given enough classes in the last few months about this topic. But the bottom line is that Am Yisrael needs our support, and especially those people who are dedicating their life to the Torah of Am Yisrael. There's a man, Shimon Peres. Shimon Peres, they say about him that there were once Israeli archaeologists digging in Egypt, and they uncovered a mummy, one of the ancient pharaohs. And he wakes up and says, is my friend King Tut still around? He said, no, he died. He said, what about Cleopatra? She's still around? He said, no, a long time ago she already died. He said, what about Shimon Peres? He's still around? He says, and now already it's not funny, right? No, he's not with us either, but he was around for a very long time. And it's not for nothing that Hashem gave him a long life. I struggle with a lot of what Shimon Peres stood for, but when he was in Germany, in the parliament in Germany, he stood up and said Kaddish, took a kippah out of his pocket and said, I'm saying this for the 6 million Jews that you guys murdered. And he says Kaddish. Listen, I'm not going to make him my rabbi, but I'm proud to have a person like that representing me in Germany. He made a point every time he visited a concentration camp to take out a kippah and say Kaddish. He didn't consider himself a religious man. But if this is not religious, then I'm happy with it. Shimon Peres was very influential in exempting the yeshiva students in Israel from serving in the military. Even though you know my opinion on that topic. But on his end, it showed a certain dedication towards those who study Torah. He was the last person to be with Rabbi Yosef in his hospital room. They were very good friends. A very strange relationship because Shimon Peres was a left-wing dove and Rabbi Yosef was from the writer of the right-wing Hawks. And they were dear friends. Like Rabbi Yosef, I told you in past, was friends with Hosni Mubarak. Very close friends.
Oh yeah, that was the weird story.
Yeah, and so Shimon Peres and him, they had a lot of respect for each other. And Shimon Peres went to the hospital room, and many people got upset at him for doing this, but he kissed Rabbi Yosef on the head. People got, who do you think you are, kissing the chief rabbi on his head? And he walked out of the hospital room, and the people in the news, they were filming him, and said, what did you do? He said, I just kissed the crown of the Jewish people goodbye. That was a statement of his. He appreciated and he respected the people who sat and studied Torah. Benjamin Netanyahu. Also, not pushing for any political candidates here, but also has a certain level of respect for those who study Torah. He, in fact, reinstituted a custom that was started by Menachem Begin. Even David Ben-Gurion perhaps was involved in this custom, to give a parsha class in the house of the prime minister every week. And he does that every week. There's a parsha class. He brings rabbis and other Knesset members and politicians. They sit and they study the weekly parasha.
Wow.
You're living in a special time. People think, oh, we just have a state of Israel. You have an Israeli prime minister who has a parsha class in his house. For 2,000 years, we're praying to have such a situation in our life. With all the problems that are there, and with everything, and the politics, they're still good. Benjamin Netanyahu, when he would come to Rabbi Yosef's office, it was very famous that when Rabbi Yosef was learning, he didn't notice anything that happened in the room. You have videos of him when he was learning, and things would fall over. He wouldn't even realize that what was happening in the room, and it would just zoomed into his study. And oftentimes, Benjamin Netanyahu would come to him for advice, and he would come. The whole prime minister's entourage, not just him, Secret Service, and all their politicians and cameramen, they would burst into Rabbi Yosef's study. He didn't realize they were there. And they'd have him, on live news cameras, waiting by Rabbi Yosef for Rabbi Yosef to realize the prime minister is there. People would get very, someone interrupt him, let him know the prime minister is here. And Benjamin Netanyahu was famous on video. Stop. Don't interrupt him. I don't remember the exact words that he said, but he said something like, the leader of Israel is writing down the legacy of Israel, and I, the prime minister of Israel, don't have the right to interrupt him. Something to that effect. To have kavod, to have respect towards our Talmidei Chachamim, won't hurt people. I told you last week, I got a letter from a few of my friends. One of our friends is in Israel. He doesn't have food to eat in his refrigerator. I don't think he didn't try. He tried to be a rabbi in a community. Not everybody survives being the rabbi of a community. I was lucky. I have, Baruch Hashem, the best community in the world. Not everybody's lucky. Rabbi Yosef Masas writes that a rabbi of a community, he's like a person who they tied his hands and legs, and they throw him into a lion's den with a bunch of hungry lions. He says, well, let's see if he survives. That's what it's like to be a rabbi of a community. Not everybody survives this job, and so what? What I do, I put together some tzedakah and I send it to Israel. But there are a lot of people like that are there to serve Am Yisrael, and they're not always able to make it. I'm not telling you there's not other poor people in the world, but we have priorities in order. But somebody who knows how to study Torah. צריך ללמוד תורה, he must study Torah כפי כוח שכלו, according to his intellectual capacity. When you're at elementary school, you don't have the same obligation to study as a person in high school or in college or an adult. Or different levels of sophistication require different levels of sophistication of Torah study. There are some people who come to this class and they say, I don't understand anything that's happening here. So then this might not be what they should be studying. There are some people that studying this they should be studying something else. There's something more advanced they should be studying, or they can study it faster, for whatever reason. ולא ילמד בגרסה. You know the word girsa means? Girsa.
Version?
It means version. In the Lithuanian yeshiva circles, they call this bekias, bekiut. In the Chabad circles, they call it girsa. There's two ways to study Torah: biyun, in depth, and bigirsa, just going fast. Let's say covering ground and elaborating in depth. And both are important, you should know. You have to have a bigger picture and then zoom into certain things. If you just know a little bit of one thing, what are you worth? A rabbi in the Gemara asked this question: is it better to be a Sinai or Harim? Is it better to be the whole Mount Sinai, the whole Torah, but just you heard it once on Mount Sinai? So you know the Torah, but on a very basic level, but you know everything. Or it's better to be Harim, the kind of guy who's so brilliant, you know how to uproot the Har Sinai, you know how to flip over the mountain. But you know how to elaborate on points very deep. Which is more important? The Gemara says Sinai Adif. It's better to have the person who knows more. The bigger picture is better than zooming in. But if you can have both, you should have both. So a person who knows how to go in depth, knows how to elaborate, knows how to read more than just superficially. Lo yilmod b'girsa b'alma b'li havana. You shouldn't study just to cover ground. Uledat kama poskim, and according to some of the poskim, im gores b'limud haTorah. If he covers ground in Torah learning, b'li havana, without the proper depth, kshechol lavin, when he has the ability to understand more, and ze nichshav, this is not considered l'limud Torah klal. It's not considered if he studied Torah at all. So if he could study more, and he chooses not to, then what he studies doesn't count for him. There was a big debate when Rabbi Meir Shapiro of Lublin instituted the Daf Yomi program, which is the day to study one page of Talmud a day, then every 7.5 years you'll finish the whole Talmud. There was much controversy about this, because he instituted this for who?
People work and don't have time to study much.
He instituted it for the people in his yeshiva, who on top of the curriculum that they were studying, to zoom in and learn things in depth, he wanted to make sure they also had the bigger picture. When Daf Yomi was revived in this country, and it became, that's what your layman who has 1 hour a day to study should study, people were very upset about this. Because is it really worth, a person can study more in depth. What's the point of just covering pages of Gemara if they're, next week you're going to forget them anyways? I mean, it's meant to complement your in-depth Jewish education, not to serve as your only focus of Jewish education. But a person has to know themselves. You have to know, what am I able to study? If I'm able to study more, so why am I not studying more? Today, ArtScroll is making problems for us. Because they're opening up a lot of books to the general public that used to not be available. You can say, listen, I only can read the few books that are in English. Chumash, Siddur. What do you want from me? I don't know how to read Hebrew. But today, you're in trouble. Angel has this midrash set over here. You could spend your whole life studying this book, you won't finish it. It's tremendous. It's a commentary in the Chumash, a Talmudic commentary in the Chumash. They used to say, okay, it was in Hebrew. We used to say, oh, it's a bad print, and they made a new print of it. So now you can't come to that. I only speak English, I can't speak Hebrew. So they translate it for you. Now you have to study it. Today they have the Shulchan Aruch translated. They have the Sefer Chinuch, the book of all the 630 mitzvot. They have it translated. They even have the Zohar translated. They even have, and I'm telling you, you should jump up and down study Zohar. I'm telling you, the amount of things that are already translated, serious classic works. Misat Sharim, Rabbeinu Avraham ben Arambam, the Chovot Levavot, the duties of the heart. Derech Hashem, Ramchal's work on how the spirits work and how the angels work and how the world works. So, who exempted us from studying these things now? We don't have an excuse anymore. So when I sit and I say, you know what, I just like to listen to Torah classes on YouTube. It's good to listen to Torah classes on YouTube. But only if that's the only thing you can do. But if you can do more than that, so listen to Torah class on YouTube when you drive your car, because don't read your book when you're driving your car. But when you're home and you have an hour off, don't gotta go into YouTube and watch your favorite, read it, learn a sefer. Go to a class that learns a sefer. You have to know who you are and how much you're able to study and be real with yourself. Push yourself hard. It's not too late for anybody in this room, to know thousands of pages of Torah. To know Torah. It's not too late for anybody here to study enough halakha to know how to answer halakha questions if somebody asks you. How long does it take already? To sit and study and study and study. At least, I'll tell you, at least what every person here should have done, and if you didn't do it until now, so start now. This week, it's Monday. There are a few books of halakha that are very short. If you're Ashkenazi and it's easy for you and it's in English, Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. Oh, we don't follow always the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. It's true, the Ashkenazim don't always follow the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, but 95% of times they do. And the 5% that they don't, it's not going to hurt you if you follow the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. If you study, you study a page and a half of Kitzur Shulchan Aruch a day, you finish the entire book in 1 year.
Come out the God's free.
Yeah. You know.
Real problems in that.
There are no problems in the Gospel book.
The
You know.
middle one, the English one.
I don't know what's in English, but I didn't.
I showed you some of the things.
It makes me you said about the guy that read the whole
Mishnah
Mishnah
Berurah. You can finish the whole Kitzur Shulchan Aruch in 1 year. That means you know everything. The laws of wake up in the morning, talit, tzitzit, tefillin, Shabbat, mezuzah, family purity, everything in one book, in 1 year. So do you know enough to write your own book on it? No. But there's nothing you didn't study yet that you can't look up. In 1 year, all it takes is a year. If you take a Ben Ish Chai, you're of the Sephardic or Kabbalistic inclination. Today they have the Ben Ish Chai in English, albeit it's in a funny English. How do you spell the name David?
W-I-D.
I don't know. They probably do D-A-W-I-D.
They do D-A-W-I-D-H.
Yeah.
David. Like we used to say it in an old country, you know. But okay, so you get used to this a little bit, and you can finish the whole Ben Ish Chai. It goes by parashiyot. You finish the whole book in 1 year, and then you need another 6 months afterwards to finish the rest of it, and you know all of the halachot of the Ben Ish Chai. Kabbalistic and simple halachot. Tanakh. If you do 1 chapter a day of Tanakh, just one chapter, I believe the math comes out to 2.5 years. 1 chapter a day, 2.5 years, you finish all of the Tanakh, from cover to cover. 1 chapter a day is not very long. The chapters in the Tanakh are maybe 20 sentences each. It's like reading a paragraph a day.
1 chapter a day?
1 chapter a day,
And
2.5 years, you finish the whole Tanakh. The whole thing.
And the
From
year.
the Chumash to the Nevi'im, 24 books of the prophets, the whole Ketuvim, all the Megillot, the Tehillim, everything you finish in one 2.5 year cycle.
It's fascinating to think about that kind of math. I was thinking about the other day when you were talking about this Mishnah Brew. I thought, just like in terms of that person just catching up, just while he was waiting for his chavruta to show up for those 5 minutes. I was thinking, our car stores 25 gallons of gas, and if we got like 250,000 miles in the Land Cruiser, that means I pumped the gas 1,000 times in that car.
Wow.
So
Wow.
think about it, if you were just, instead of sitting around like watching the thing spin, have a little something with you and just go like, I'm just going to
That's
do
very
it just
smart.
with the glass.
It takes a few minutes to pump your gas. That's a good. I'm going to see people in the gas stations now learning Torah. It's going to be. But see,
That's a
we say-
lot of time,
It is a lot of
1,000
time.
pumps, and it's like 5-7 minutes each pump or
No,
whatever.
you have a very humbling moment. You go to your phone and you go to your settings. There's a usage section, and it says how many hours you've talked on the phone.
Yeah,
I'm going to do it now. I'm going to embarrass myself in public. Watch.
and how much time has been on Facebook, and how much time
No,
has been on-
it doesn't tell me. It tells me how much battery I use, but someone has to do math. There's how much time did I use this phone? Of course, I'm going to look for it. Jacob, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. You want me
Here,
to find it
here.
for you?
Shem Yishmael. My call time
Open usage.
in my current billing cycle, I guess of this year, whatever, 1 day and 20 hours. But since I got this phone, listen carefully. Listen carefully. 24 days and 21 hours. I'm going on already, 25th day. I didn't see it until now. So nobody.
Except when your old phone broke and you got this phone, it wasn't that long ago.
Well, right. This phone, yeah, it's a whole month of my life. I'm busy talking to other people. It's unbelievable. Now, talking to other people is something you have to. You're right. I don't have here what tells me how much time you're on Facebook or taking pictures of your dinner or looking at other people's cats or whatever else, whatever people do, intelligent things on their phone. Someone said, you have the most powerful device in your hand. It sends messages to satellites in heaven, the sky, comes back to you in 3 seconds, and we use it to see pictures of other people's, birthday parties. It's unbelievable. This is what we do with our power. You could look up anything you want in the world. You could study the whole encyclopedia, and we choose it to watch the newest pranks on YouTube. I don't know, whatever someone sends you in your mail, chain mail, forward this to 25 people, or you'll die in the next 3 days. These things. It's unbelievable what people do. And I'm not coming here to complain. You have to have a life. You have to do things. But it's one project like that. I suggest, starting a Shulchan Aruch or the Ben Ish Chai, whatever you're most comfortable with. And just doing once, I can give you the calendar. You can Google it yourself. There's a calendar of how much you have to study each day. In 1 year, you could finish all the halachot that a human being needs to know. In 1 year. That means in a year from now, I can ask you a question on halakha, and if you don't know it offhand, you'll at least know where to look it up. You'll have under your belt one whole book. If you want to study a whole Masechta of Talmud, I don't suggest doing Daf Yomi because there's too much information in a day. You could do half a page, meaning one side of a page. And if you want, you can finish, let's say, Masechet Megillah. let's say 2 months before Purim, because Purim is the Masechet Megillah. It's 30 pages of Masechet Megillah. You study half a page a day, so for 2 months, for 60 days, and on Purim day at your Purim meal, you'll make a siyum on a whole tractate of Talmud. The whole thing. It's going to be under your belt. You add it to your. This is in my suitcase. This is what I have. When I go to the next world, I'm going to say, what books are you coming with? It's not the books you bought on your shelf you never looked at. It's the ones that you went through them. You're going to come with the library. And it's not so hard for you. You think, I'm already this old, when am I going to get a chance? It's not true. Who here doesn't have another year? You have to 120, so you have at least 100 more years. I'm serious, another year, so do that. You want to finish Tanakh and Halakha, and you want to add a Misnat Yesharim on top of that, you can do Misnat Yesharim in a month. So that means you could do 12 Musar books in 1 year. And then you finish, what else do you need to know afterwards? When you finish that, I'll talk to you about it. The person has to learn, and none of us in this room, myself included, none of us are learning at the potential that we can be learning. We're learning a lot. Like we said in the call in Maspikul Desha. We can be proud of what it is that we are learning. But we should realize there's another level on top of that. And that level is just another step a day. It's really putting time every day. Chok v'lo yavo, every time. Like I said, you could split this up in your day. At breakfast, you read one thing. At lunch, you read another thing. By dinner, you read another thing. When you go to bed, take time in your day. You don't have to have a full block of an hour. Who has an hour and just close off? So you make real 15-minute periods. 4 of those, you finish, you close your whole day. It's not so difficult. Rabbi Nachman of Breslev, in one of his speeches, it's recorded in Sichot Haran, that book of his speeches, he writes that everything his Hasidim have to study. I once mentioned it here.
Oh yeah, it's like 60 hours a day.
He mentioned that they have to study all of the Tanakh and all of the Talmud, all the Mishnah, all the Zohar, all the Mesivah Musa, all the Shulchan Aruch, all the Rambam, all. And Rabbi Ari Kaplan did the calculation that every person, according to him, has to study 7,000 pages of Torah a day.
Oh.
I'm not Rabbi Nachman. I'm not asking you here to study. I don't know how you study 7,000 pages of Torah a day. Rav Chaim Kanievsky is famous that he studies a little bit of halakha before he starts to study Talmud in the morning. Rav Peretz used to sit next to Rav Chaim Kanievsky in Kollel, and he told me that he does about 7 pages of Shulchan Aruch before he starts his Talmud study. There's a little bit of halakha in the life of it. I'm not asking you to do 7 pages of Shulchan Aruch. I'm just asking you to be a well-read Jew. It's not so hard. Not so hard. Ignore all the other things that you're reading, the books on the Sfirot, the books on how to make my heart better, on the books how to, I don't know, men are from Mars. I'll kind of put those books on the bookshelves. Like, Hashem, when I have time, when I have time, this is Vagita Bo Yom V'Layla. You must study Torah day and night. A rabbi saying, so find a time that is not day and not night and read those books. But in the day and the night, study the things you need to be studying. It's not going to hurt you.
What about Chok Yisrael? Does it have a
Chok Yisrael is also good. There are people who could do more than Chok Yisrael. So if Chok Yisrael, remember we mentioned Chok Yisrael last week, which is a little bit of Chumash, I suggest this for everybody. Absolutely. So you'll finish the whole Chumash every year. The whole Haftarah, all of the two, you'll finish those every year. And if you have, and the Mishnayot and the Gemara, of course, I'm all for it. But if Rabbi Peretz was to only study Chok Yisrael, he would be guilty of not studying Torah because he could do more than that. Every person has to know who they are. And the point is not to shove information down your throat. The point is to study at a pace which you're able to retain the information that you study. Which means reviewing things. So on Shabbat, it's always a good day to just skim over what it is that you studied. And I suggest on Shabbat should not be one of your days that you study. Shabbat is a day for review. Review the things that you studied during the week. If you can do even better, so you see what Raphael is doing, Angel and Mario, take notes. What do you mean notes? There are people who take notes, and what I'm telling you now is Torah, so we're not wasting time here. There are people who take notes, they write down every word that somebody says. And they come back to their notes, and it's like 30 pages for every class. They took notes, because they transcribed everything. That's not the point. The point is when you read a book, here Dan is doing a little bit of this. Make on the side, you know when you buy books and it says on the side of the book, what's going on in that paragraph, like in 5 words, what's the main content of that paragraph? You do the same thing. Write in your book and say, this paragraph is talking about humility. This one about this. This one about that way. Just you know what you covered, and you review those things in your mind. And then, if you're really smart, you could take your notebook with you on Shabbat. You don't even have to open up the main book. You just review by heart. What you wrote 6 main points for 6 days of the week. So now you just review what you remember from those and go on. You close the notebook. You start next week something else. A person can do this. V'yesh omrim, and some say, Shemi shechol lilmod bi'iyun, somebody who can study in depth. Uve'amkut, and with real, amkut is depth, really, literally, but
Concentration.
yes, let's say like analyzation, to really analyze what's going on there. V'liknot la'atzmo, and to acquire from himself yidi'ah chadasha, a new understanding. B'limud HaTorah, in the study of the Torah. I learned something new yesterday that made me very happy. I learned something new. Something I never knew before. The Chidar, Rabbi Yonatan Halevy, he asked, you know the whole thing, oh, Baruch Hashem, Bezrat Hashem, Baruch Hashem. You say so many times Hashem's name, you're probably driving Hashem crazy. Where did we learn how to mention Hashem's name so many times?
You're supposed to have 100 blessings a day.
Correct. But where's the source of the custom that everything you do, you say with the help of Hashem, or with the blessing of Hashem, or if Hashem wills it to happen? Where do we learn, what's the origin of this Jewish custom? So when the Mishkan traveled, you remember when the Mishkan traveled?
Yeah.
It says, Al pi Hashem yachanu, on the word of Hashem they camped, Al pi Hashem yisau, and whenever the word of Hashem was, they, according to the word of Hashem, they traveled. Meaning, even they're stopping and they're traveling, they did it with the name of Hashem in their mouth. You learn everything that you do to invoke the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I thought it was a beautiful thing. I told my wife, she told my parents. So you're allowed to learn something new. Not everything has to be something I've heard before. Almost every time I go to a Parsha class, I hear a different rabbi asking the same question that another rabbi asked, giving the same answer or worse than the other rabbi asked, and then spending everybody's time talking about the same things they already know. Why don't you ask the questions in the parasha that nobody asks? Why don't you teach them about things that nobody else talks about? They already know. They heard this 50 times in their life, and now you ask them the same question. Why is the Aleph in Vayikra small? To tell you the truth, I've heard it so many times, I don't remember why it's small. Is that the most important thing this parasha came to tell you? Go study things that are new. It will give you new knowledge. Uma'avir et zmano, as a person who has this ability to study new things, to really know Torah better. Uma'avir et zmano, and he spends his time Bikriyat Tehillim, with the reading of Tehillim. Uvazar HaKadosh, and chanting the Aramaic of the Zohar HaKadosh. Uva Agadot, and reading stories. Bilvad. Just then, Harei hu over al isur bitul Torah, he violates the prohibition of not studying Torah. You're able to learn more than just mumbling Tehillim out of a book. You're able to do more than just read Jewish biographies. So there's a time in your life to relax a little, to read them. But you have to spend your time doing the things you're able to do. Who exempted you from those things? And his source is the Kehillat. So if you just look at me, the last thing we'll read today, the bottom left, he says, the last footnote. Ken katav b'sefer Kehillat. This is what the Kehillat writes. B'zohar lashon, in these words. Ukvar kadvu poskim. By the way, the Kehillat, if you want to go through that book, this is the ultimate book of Musa. I know people will disagree with me, especially people online. The same people who don't like Rabbi Gantri's Shulchan Aruch because he's too strict sometimes, and the same people who struggle with the Kehillat because he's too holy sometimes. It's not everything there is meant for everybody. Like the Shulchan Aruch, not everything there is a halakha that I'm going to tell you, but at the very least to have a knowledge of a halakha, that's what you should have. The Kehillat, they even made, one of the rabbis in New York, not necessarily suggesting you read all of his books, but he made an abridged Kehillat in English. The basic summaries of every paragraph. Let's call it the Kehillat reader. It fits in your pocket, and you can just read Kehillat wherever you go. It's an incredible book. All kinds of wisdoms of the Torah. Poskim already writes, a person who can really study new Torah, and he spends his time studying Tehillim and Zohar. Nothing wrong with Tehillim and Zohar, but most people who are doing these things are doing them very superficially. The Gabed Dideh, for him, On page 8, Chashiv Bitul Torah. It's considered Bitul Torah, a waste of time. What does it mean? It's considered for him. Why him?
Because he's not getting into, diving into it.
Correct, but why does he say that?
He has a greater potential.
Because some people can study
Oh,
it.
for some people, this counts as studying Torah, because that's what they're able to do. But for him, that can do more, he should do more. You know, if you serve in, you're a, I don't know, infantry soldier, and you decide in the middle of the battle you're dropping out because you see there's a Navy ship, the captain was shot, you're taking over the Navy now, and you win the battle. What kind of reward do you get when you finish?
You get the break.
Yeah, you ditched your post.
Yeah.
Your job is not to lead the Navy into war.
Yeah.
Oh, but I was successful. Doesn't make a difference. I know you know how to read Tehillim. But that's not your purpose. For the guy who was supposed to lead the Navy, that was for him. Your job was something else. Maybe his job is better than yours. Doesn't make a difference. His job is better than yours. You can't be AWOL from the things you need to be doing. You can't be absent from your post when you're supposed to be doing
desert
something.
your post. Yeah.
And a person has to be very careful. Where am I in Judaism? Where am I in my Torah learning? I don't want to desert my post. Somehow out of the major cities where we study Torah, there's been this lax approach to the study of Torah. Torah is, you go once a week to a class, you listen to a nice sermon on Shabbat, maybe if you're super holy, you get some kind of podcast on your phone that you listen to about Israeli politics from the perspective of Torah. You know, now it's a new area of Torah study. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't know that. And then you say, oh, I'm a very well-learned Jew. The question is, are you really? The classic Jewish text, Tanakh. I know, it's the Jewish book. Mishnah, Talmud, Rambam, Shulchan Aruch, and all the books of Musar, of ethical behavior, of perfecting it over the person. Do you know all of those? I had somebody in my house the other day. They knew all these baseball cards. Unbelievable. I never saw such. They knew this player when he was born, when his last home run. See, you know what a waste of a mind that is? I mean, what this person's telling you is he's brilliant. He's brilliant. But he spends all his memory. It's like you have a phone, and you have 64 gigabytes of memory, and you fill it up with pictures of rocks. Because you like rocks, I understand. But your whole phone, so that means you can't use your email anymore. That means you can't make phone calls anymore. That means you don't have memory to get any pictures on your phone anymore. So no more room on your phone because it's so busy in rocks. Perhaps I can end off with a story, just a story. Because we said a story counts as learning Torah, right? I was with today the Hasidic rabbi who was speaking in Yiddish, but it had subtitles, so I'm going to trust the subtitles. There was this elaborate wedding. And this elaborate wedding was very wealthy Jews. And they had food, they brought special rolls that came from Israel, and they brought special chickens that came from wherever they came from. They brought special silverware that came from Brazil, and special plates that were made in Holland, and special cups that were made in Germany, and they had special chairs that were made by hand in Thailand, and they had the whole thing. They had waterfalls pouring over everybody's chairs, and incredible music. They had 3 different bands in this. It was an incredible thing. If you sneezed, they had somebody who came to wipe your nose for you. If your hair was disheveled, they had a person whose job was to brush your hair. At the entrance, they would polish your shoes. Everything in the world you could think of, they had at this wedding. And the chatan, they even had next to the groom's parents, they had a guy handing out $1,000 bills to anybody who needed money. Handing out money for right and left. And the chatan, it comes time for the chatan and the kalat to come to the wedding hall. And so they come into the wedding hall. What normally happens when the bride and the groom come in?
Here's Mr. and Mrs. Stein.
Right, yeah. They do like a famous song. Yeah, welcome, Mr. and Mrs. And they come in, everyone dances, and they come into the wedding hall. And one person's looking at the waterfall. The other one's too busy checking out the silverware that's on the table. The other one is busy collecting money. They're handing out he's handing out $100 bills to the bride, to the grooms. I got some for you also. Everybody's so busy with everything else, and nobody realized the bride and the groom came to the room. So what was the point? So the bride and the groom got in their car and they went home.
What?
Yeah.
Whoa.
They said that's like what happens in our life the whole day. Hashem makes a beautiful world. He gives us all kinds of food from different countries, and He gives us all kinds of furniture that came from different places. Then He gives us jobs and money, and everything comes from everywhere. And we get so busy in this world, we're focusing on making money, we're focusing on our job, we're focusing on our careers, we're focusing on our surfing hobbies, we're focusing on our golfing, we're focusing on everything under the world you could focus on, and we totally ignore the bride and the groom in the room. That's a KSH Kollel. We ignore Hashem, we ignore the one who made the whole party. The bride and the groom they're the center of the party, and we ignore them completely. And how often do we do this in our life? Yeah, it's important to have a job, it's important to make money, it's important but what about Hashem? What about the one who gives you the job? What about the one who makes the money? What about the one who makes you hit your golf ball in the right direction? A little bit of focus on him would be like having a wedding where nobody pays attention to the bride and the groom. Hashem is throwing us a beautiful wedding. And you can focus on the waterfalls, on the nature, everything you want to focus on. But just don't forget a KSH Kollel. You're going to live your life, you want to be Jewish, you want to be successful, I understand. But don't ever forget that you have an obligation too, to have a real relationship with the KSH Kollel. How do you have a relationship with the KSH Kollel? You study the words that the KSH Kollel gave us, the Torah, and the words of all the commentators who try to elaborate on the Torah so you could live a better life, so you could enjoy the waterfalls and play the golf and have a job, but do it in the way that Hashem really wanted it to be done. That's the goal of humanity. That's the whole purpose. Hashem should help us connect in that right there. So good night. Yeah.